Yesterday set the groundwork for the actual rebellion against our good friend, kind and fluffy King John. Foul as it is, hell itself is defiled by the presence of King John. The rebellion started by the nobles in late 1214, led by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Stephen Langton, demanding the freedoms from pretty much exactly from Henry I's Charter of Liberties in 1100. The list had 63 articles, 63 separate points. The king shall not do this. The king shall do that. The king shall not do this. If we've got a list of rules for the king to follow, which means the rules for the government to follow, what is the proper word for that? What is the correct noun for a list of rules as to how the government should operate? Glenn Alexis.
Does it start with a C?
It certainly does start with a C.
The Constitution.
This is an early kind of constitution. We have a constitution with its amendments. Those are the rules for which the government and the basic framework of the laws of this country are supposed to be set. So this is an early form of constitution. It's not complete. It's not a nice system. It's basically designed to limit, well, whose power is it designed to limit, Delaney? The king's. Now, there are a couple of important precedents established and reborn in the mere existence of the Magna Carta. There's a greater implication that goes all the way back to Hammurabi and the stele of Hammurabi, which I taught you all about last year. If there are rules published which the king must follow, that means no one. Alexis?
Not.
Right, no one is above the law. Now, aside from John, who is obviously going to be seriously miffed by this, can you think of anyone else who might be conceivably upset by the fact that all laws in England are now subject to this Magna Carta? Jack? You betcha. The Pope was going to be seriously annoyed at this, which is rather ironic. We will come to that later. Now, but some of them still matter, and some of them established very important precedents which we need to be aware of, and I just want to bring to your attention 3 of them. Let's talk specifically about Article 12. What do you think was the primary complaint of the barons at this time? What was the thing they most wanted to end? Delaney? Scutage. Okay. Scutage could only be imposed with the agreement of the barons. Why would the barons even agree to a tax in the first place? Why would they even agree to a war tax? Ian?
If they agree with the war.
Right, if they agreed with the war. If they thought it was necessary to either defend the country or they thought the king might win and gain them more land. Now, did they think John could ever win them a war? No, he had spent 15 years, 20 years proving that he couldn't. But that should set the idea that scutage could only be imposed if the barons agreed. That should sound vaguely similar to something you all know about. Something to do with the American Revolution. Justin? This is the earliest form of the slogan from the Revolutionary War, no taxation without representation. The Magna Carta is the source of that idea. And this is not the only idea that shows up in Magna Carta that the Founding Fathers knew explicitly and repeated 500 years later because George III was breaking the Magna Carta. Of course, it would have just been better if you wiped out the representation part. Let's just have no taxes, yes? Yes?
Is this still in check today?
Yes. We have taxes, but we have representation. We have voted in the people who tax us. Let's see if we can make sense of that. Okay, Article 14. The king could only rule in consultation or with the consent of a council of barons. Okay, so later down the line, this sort of thing is going to become Parliament and Congress, but what's it building on? What idea is it taking over from an earlier English king? Justin?
The Great Council.
Okay, this is the updated version. The Council of Barons is the updated version of the Great Council. Now, there's only one other specific law which I wish to bring to your attention, and that is Article 61. Now, the barons weren't completely stupid. After all, they were being led by a very well-educated man, Stephen Langton, and they foresaw, they could see a big problem if they weren't careful. Knowing what kind of person John was, what might happen if he signed this list of laws? What might happen if he just signed off on them? Naomi?
That he would just sign it and then just not obey them.
Right. So there was entirely the possibility that John would not hold his word. Article 61 was built in to make sure the king had to follow the laws. And it said very simply, if the king breaks these promises, breaks these laws, well, what do you think the nobles would be entitled to do under those circumstances, Michaela?
You would overthrow him.
Right. It is the right of legalized rebellion. If the king breaks this charter, this list of laws, then he is no longer entitled to the respect of his subjects. They are entitled to overthrow him. Now, that certainly happened in English history from time to time, but more importantly, this idea surfaced much later in a far distant land. Delaney?
Never.
Right. The idea of legalized rebellion is crucial to the actual Declaration of Independence. When Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration, when the Founding Fathers were meeting at the Second Continental Congress, they knew this. They knew because of Magna Carta, and I mean, it wasn't just something that they learned in school. This was something they understood. If the king was rotten, and remember, George III was the English king, if the king was not following his own laws, they had the right to rebel against the king. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to separate, I'm getting lost there. Okay, that's all contained in the opening of the Declaration of Independence. Article 61 from the Magna Carta. The importance of this document as setting precedents cannot be underestimated. Whether the king liked it or not, Magna Carta was here to stay.